Hello and welcome to the first part of the judging for the 1997 Fun Car competition. I've had 5 entries, so pretty good, about what I was expecting, to be honest. I haven't taken a look at these at all. I'm going into these completely blind, and I'll sort of do some proper judging, put it into a spreadsheet that I'll put at the end of the video. At least for the section automation. I'll do another video of testing them in BeamNG Drive and give my opinions of them there. So, here we go. First of all, sent in by Echo Waffle, the Aeros Mastiff GT. Just see what it's like. I have absolutely no idea. Echo Waffle actually told me to take a look at this car blind, so that's sort of why I'm doing this entire thing completely blind. So it's a big boat with that wasn't what I was expecting. With some massive taillights. Interesting. Does look fairly 90s though, I'll give it that. So, oh, it's full American. Oh boy, right, so let's take a look through it. I bet it's solid axle coil, yeah. On a ladder chassis. Partial aluminium, that's nicer than I was expecting. Yeah, this is full American barge, but okay, with a slight sort of TVR purpley green colour. Okay, yeah, 90-degree cast iron V8, so what, yeah, 280 kilogram engine. Low friction cast though, so it's somewhat fuel efficient. Interesting. I don't expect much of this car at the moment, but we'll have to see. May sound decent since it's got a straight through muffler and tubular headers. Give it a listen. To be honest, I don't really care about engine sounds. I have no idea if people will think that sounds good or not. It sounded just sort of to me. I don't know. Yeah. I've never used this body before, so I don't know really sort of if there are any variants and stuff. But let's see. It's rear-wheel drive. No surprise there with an automatic. Geared LSD. That's kind of a surprise. Interesting sort of gearing there. It's all down low. It may have a decent bit of pull to it in low speeds. That's something a bit interesting. Medium compound tyres, 235s and 255s, so I don't know, I guess that'd be fairly wide for the time, right? Because yeah, that sounds fairly wide for the time. Not really something that you'd see in the UK, but possibly, or indeed in Europe, but could still work. Just this car in general. Brakes are massive. No surprise, it's got 1,860 kilogram to stop. Lots of downforce. Well, no, quite a lot of lift, but that's a decent amount of downforce. So, yeah, surprisingly sort of cheap interior, considering it. Comfort's only 22, I suppose, because it's got to be kind of sporty. But only ABS, no traction control, which is interesting. But variable hydraulic power steering, quite nice. Make it a bit drivable, sort of the best compromise for anything short of a track car and standard 90s. Safety, progressive gas monotube, yeah, all pretty standard stuff here. And yeah, fairly stiff suspension tune. Yeah, it's certainly something a bit interesting. How much does it cost? I was going to give it a 20% markup, wasn't I? So 20,000. That's fairly expensive, and yeah, the markets hate this car. But I don't know. I don't think it'll do so well on the automation side, but maybe it'll be something surprising when I go to drive it in BeamNG. I highly doubt it, but you never know. On to the next car then. So, next we have the Deer and Hunt Bambi Fun by Mikon? 7? I don't know how you pronounce it. Anyway, certainly looks quite interesting. I quite like the styling of it. Yeah, it is quite interesting. Well, good looking car, I think. Good use of the body. I think that's quite a nice rear light arrangement. And yeah, so the plastic trim, it does look very sort of era appropriate. It's also very happy. I quite like that. Let's just see what it's like. So, treated steel, that's kind of expensive. Quite a lot of engineering time, but okay. Monocoque chassis and steel, that's alright. Kind of surprised it isn't galvanised, but okay. Front longitudinal, McPherson struts, and a solid axle coil rear. I wasn't expecting so many solid axles in this, or any at all actually, but okay. Dunno, could still be fun in a sort of pony car way. And yeah, it does score in pony. No surprise though, everything does. It's another cast iron push rod engine. This one a V6 though, 2 litre. So sort of more European. Again, low friction cut. It's the same car again, isn't it? No, this one's slightly more aggressive and with a really laggy turbo. Yeah, that doesn't look like it was tuned. I'm not sure if the settings just didn't carry over or something, because that's a bit odd. Yeah, overall, I mean, standard to go with a 15:1 fuel mixture. So, yeah, it's alright. Kind of low revving, I mean, for what it is, but yeah, I don't know, it's alright. I suppose, yeah, it's a twin turbo, so it is going to be a bit laggy, but even so, that's kind of ridiculous. Well, it is 3,500 RPM, but yeah, I don't know, it could probably be optimised a bit. Yeah, here is fine. How does it sound like? Certainly sounds a bit more aggressive. I assume that's the performance intake there. But yeah, what about the inside? It's another automatic. This one a 4-speed. Open differential this time. Yeah, it is rear-wheel drive. Medium compound, much smaller tyres though, and equal size, which does help reduce costs. So this will probably be a lot cheaper. Brakes are a lot smaller. The front brakes can't actually lock up the front wheels. Or, well, at least according to automation. I'm not sure where they'll be in the case and beam, because a bit less grip in there from what I know. Again, wings on it. Interior is about the same, and 5 seats. Then standard hydraulic power steering. Okay then, and just ABS. Goodbye their safety. I don't know why they does that. It's a bit weird. But standard 80 safety. Okay, it's all fairly standard. Again, very sort of stiff suspension, at least to me. I suppose though it is a solid axle suspension, that's probably why it's so stiff there. I don't know. I don't really use solid axles. It's only a 20% markup, and yeah, 12 grand, so way cheaper for overall probably a better package. It is a bit less comfortable, but yeah, again, we'll just have to see when I actually yeah, compare these cars properly. Next we have the Grehet Reviva CSI Europe. I don't know. Well, I assume that's like sort of country designations or whatever. But yeah, it's a little key car body. Well, the body is sort of the key car size. Does this one quite fit? No. Been extended out to sort of more sensible dimensions. But yeah, it's a fun sort of cutesy looking thing. Looks sort of more in the, well, I was about to say it's more like sort of the hot hatch, but yeah, 2.2 litre inline 5 and 187 horsepower. That's more like sort of hot Clio territory, more like the Renault Sports 172s 182s, etc. Only this is an inline 5, so it's cooler and more unique. Partial aluminium, monocoque, galvanized steel. Yeah, this is all fairly standard stuff. McPherson struts and double wishbone. Finally, some independent rear suspension being brought into something more up to date. Although, yeah, McPherson strut up front, so it's kind of like a reverse Honda in a way. I mean, Honda had trailing arm, but you can't have trailing arm front. Whatever. Right, this is VVL, so it's got VTEC. Oh, it really is a Honda. And interesting, so it's a sort of shrunken down engine. And, oh, look at this. Yeah, so I assume this is an engine borrowed for another car and brought down. That's interesting. May actually give it a couple of extra points in sort of realism factor there. I don't know, since it is kind of giving yourself a disadvantage because it makes the engine a lot heavier doing that. But yeah, fairly standard stuff. No VVT surprisingly, but yeah, and again actually it's made out of aluminium instead of ALC for some reason, which is a bit odd, but okay. And yeah, naturally aspirated, multi-point EFI obviously. Premium 95, yeah, all good. Yeah, it's fairly standard stuff. Short cast and then 2 straight throughs. Interesting. Suppose that makes sense. Keeping the loudness down a bit. It is fairly restricted though. Could kind of benefits from some tubular headers, which yeah, would probably help get quite a bit of horsepower. You could probably push 200 fairly easily with a bit of tuning. So yeah, listen to it. Yeah, you can really hear when the VVL kicks in there and it swaps over to the aggressive cams. Now this is a body I'm fairly familiar with, so it will be kind of interesting to see how my choices are different between theirs. Oh, it's all-wheel drive. That's interesting. I suppose that makes sense. It's a tiny body with quite a lot of power, so you do sort of need it, especially since this is such a short wheelbase. It's 2.1 meters, so this could potentially be a bit twitchy in beam. You actually see the stats between this and the previous car. Yeah, is that the previous car? Because I assume so. Yeah, no, it just seems a bit odd how they're all the same. Maybe it's not, and maybe it's being really weird. I don't know. Anyway, yeah. Viscous differentials, 5-speed manual. That's all fairly standard stuff. Sport compound, 195 tyres, all around. That's all fairly standard stuff. Steel wheels, maybe a bit odd for the time, but suppose if you're sort of min-maxing for the markets or whatever, or you don't really need that extra prestige and a little bit of weight off, you don't really care. Yeah, vented discs, and they are powerful enough to lock up the wheels. It's all good. Some slightly increased quality interior with a basic and set and standard interior. That's all fairly standard stuff. Variable hydraulic and ABS. Seems to be sort of running theme there. Hydraulic power steering and ABS with standard 90 safety, progressive, gas mono and passive. Yeah, that's all good. Quite a lot of front camber there. That'll increase the service costs quite a bit. But don't know, maybe it's all fine. Did it have a performance intake? Yeah, it did. So service costs are probably quite high on this car. Well, I didn't actually pay attention to the other ones, but yeah, most likely it is. Yeah, suspension, independent suspension, so it is a fair bit softer there. And with the 20% markup, it is, yeah, at 13 grand. That's alright. Yeah, this is, well, it's definitely something more my style and definitely more European than the other two entries, so don't know. Just from my first impressions, I'm imagining this will do very good, although we'll have to see whether that's too much power for such a small car. Okay, next up we have the Marquez Family Sport 2-litre i5. Interesting. It's not exactly a pretty looking thing, I'll be honest. Yeah, not massively a fan of the styling. But hopefully it makes it mechanically. Looks like it has quite a bit of rake on it. I assume that's just because of the way the body. But yeah, that's kind of odd. Again, this is a body I haven't really used much. Anyway, yeah, let's go through it. Steel, monocoque, and steel. It's kind of cheap and would rust quite a lot, so maybe not the most realistic of things. Front longitudinal, fair enough. Double wishbone, front and rear. That's yeah, that's I think reasonable. Maybe not sort of for a more normal family car, but I wouldn't call it too unrealistic. Again, a fairly laggy turbo, especially for an inline engine. That's not fantastic, to be honest. But 2-litre inline 5, 4 valves a cylinder with VVL. Cast iron, heavy duty forged and forged, so the pistons, yeah, were the limiting factor for revving there. Fairly conservative VVL, interesting there, and a bit of leftover octane. That's kind of odd. Interesting, using a journal bearing, that would explain the turbo lag. Yeah, that's a very strange decision there. Probably makes it, and it's running insanely rich there. That sort of racing car levels of fuel mixture, an incredibly advanced ignition time, and the throttle response is probably through the roof. Yeah, that's rather crazy there. Exhaust 3-way with 2 reverse flows, so it's very quiet. I assume it's going to be a very comfortable car. Oh wow, you can really hear that turbo. That's yeah, that's, you can really hear the turbocharger there, the whistling of it. Yeah. Yeah, it's not as comfortable as I was expecting. It's only 20. Very drivable. Advanced automatic. Geared LSD. So yeah, it is very, very drivable. Not at all. It's not that fuel efficient at all though. And yeah, very safe. It's sort of definitely more sort of a German executive car. Sports compound, 225s all around. That's fair enough. 17-inch wheels, alloy wheels. Brakes, interesting on the front. There's enough braking, but on the rear, absolutely nothing really. That's probably the reason. Well, I suppose that and the weight of it is the reason that it's sort of not that great at braking. Also, you can tell there's quite a lot of downforce on the rear. So that's interesting. Actually, it's got drums on the rear. That's odd, but okay. Yeah, loads of downforce. Over 100 kilograms of downforce on the rear. That's this is more of a racing car, really. Interior, not that sort of luxury, but I don't know. I suppose maybe this would be more of a stripped out, sportier version. Variable hydraulic, electronic stability control, and advanced 90 safety. That makes sense and explains the incredibly high safety there. Standard springs, that's interesting. For a car like this, it's sort of quite high end. I would have expected more like air suspension or active even. Well, not sure about active actually, but yeah, more like progressive. Then yeah, for the suspension, it's fairly high camber, front and rear, very stiff springs. Like that's as stiff as the solid axle cars, and that's double wishbone front and rear. Price wise, it's only 15 grand, and still scores pretty decently in everything. So that's quite good. Yeah, service costs even more. So yeah, this could be interesting. It's definitely sort of focused on a couple of things quite a lot. Definitely has some decent stats, but at the same time it's it's not very fuel efficient at all, and quite high service cost. So we'll have to see how it does. And finally, we have the Cobra i5 rear-wheel drive by Bula 101. I guess they made a mistake with the naming. Whatever, it's fine. I think I get the gist of it. If not, oh well, I made a mistake and I apologise. The styling of this is odd, to say the least. Don't know, it doesn't work for me at all. It's sort of a bit basic, and there's no real sort of style to it, I guess. I don't want to sound brutal or rude in any way, but yeah, it just doesn't work for me at all. Although I do quite like the blue and the gold wheels. Yeah, the actual blue colour's quite interesting. I quite like that. But yeah, let's see how it does. Oh, and lots of red compared to the last one, but way more fuel efficient. It's not that much less sporty though, so that's fine at least. Let's start from the beginning as I have with everything else. Again, steel, monocoque steel. Very sort of likely to rust. Double wishbone and push rod suspension in the rear. That's sort of full track car levels there, which is odd. But okay. Onto the engine. Another inline 5. This time overhead cam and made out of aluminium. Again, kind of an odd choice, but okay. This is strange. A heavy duty cast con rods instead of going with heavy duty forged. That's probably why it's making why it has such a low red line even. That's severely limiting power, which is a little strange, but okay. Cam profile is just standard, as is compression, and single point injection. That's kind of odd. Performance intake and premium fuel. Well, yeah, premium fuel was part of the rules. Why am I pointing that out? It has got some leftover octane though in that, which is a little strange. Tubular, high flow freeway, none, and straight through. That's fairly standard stuff. I've just realised I didn't listen to the last car, did I? It's fine, I'll edit it in and probably put it back. Anyway, yeah, this one. Yeah, sounds alright. It's decent enough at least. Probably, yeah, I really don't care about saying the way cars sound, but I know some people do, so that's why I'm putting it in. Gearing, it's fair enough. Rear wheel drive, manual 5-speeding, yeah, it's fairly standard gearing. Kind of surprised the gearing is geared so that you don't quite hit 62 in a second. You can bring down your 0 to 60 time there, 0 to 62 even. Hard long life tyres, that's a bizarre choice again. 195s at the front and 220s on the rear. Solid discs, 1 pistons, and then drum brakes on the rear. Massive drum brakes, but they do at least get the car stopped, which is fair enough, and very little fade I suppose because they are just so huge, which is interesting. Cooling is nothing particularly interesting, bit of brake airflow, which is interesting. Sport interior and then basic cassette, so yeah, definitely more sort of race car, but 4 seats, which is a little strange. Hydraulic and then ABS, again kind of weird. Standard 90s, and yeah, that's fair enough. Progressive, then semi-active and semi-active. Suppose that works, but yeah, that's incredibly advanced for the time. Mind you, everything about this does seem to be rather advanced, and with the 20% markup, that puts it quite expensive. So yeah, I'm going to go away and actually sort of put those figures into a spreadsheet and sort of order them for now, and yeah, then sort of we can sort of figure out who's currently leading before BeamNG, and see how that shakes things up. Anyway, yeah, thank you for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and until next video, goodbye.